Hello there, this is ETV Special Edition and I'm Sintayo Tamirat with this edition. With this edition, I'll try to focus on the education sector performance over the African continent and also the challenges as well as the ways forward. And I'm joined here at the African Union headquarters by Edward Matoko, Assistant Director General for Priority Africa and External Relations of UNESCO. Thank you so much for joining me and do stay tuned. A very warm welcome to you, Edward Matoko.
Tinastilin, good morning.
Thank you. So we are going to talk about the African continental education sector performance by the African Union. And how do you explain the performance of the African Union's effort toward the education sector?
Thank you again for giving me that opportunity. I think that we have to realize that compared to the last decades, African governments, African countries have made great achievements in terms of education, in terms of guaranteeing access to education for all, including for girls in all parts of Africa. There are still challenges remaining, but we have to be proud as Africans of the progress we've made since the 90s. There is a political will now from the African government. There is a great engagement from the families, from the parents, to pay for the schools for the students up to the university. It's not always cheap, but they pay. It's an engagement from the local communities, the local leaders also. I think this movement is also due to the fact that the African Union, of course, along with UNESCO, UNICEF, all UN agencies have made effort to raise awareness about the importance of having people educated for the well-being of the nation. So we have to be proud of that. We still have challenges in many parts of Africa. Not all Africa is the same. Take your country, there is a great achievement in terms of access to the education. We also know that there are some regions where less than 50% of children go to school for many reasons. Could be poverty, could be conflict, could be other situation, could be traditions also, local traditions, especially for girls. This is the same for other countries, many other countries in Africa. This event of today is actually meant to raise again awareness to all African government, head of states that were here, who make decisions, those who make decisions, to give more importance to education in terms of funding. As I said, the political will is there. We need funding from the government, public funding. We need funding from our partners, our international organization or bilateral organization. We need also to support the parents that want to send, the poor parents that want to send their children to the public schools, which is free, instead of going to the private schools, which is very expensive. So there are many challenges ahead, let alone the challenges of the schools infrastructure. In many parts of Africa, you have classrooms with more than 45 children for one teacher. You have also children that share the same classroom. You don't have enough space for the children to do sports. You don't have enough space for the girls to have a safe environment. So all these are challenges, continuous challenges that we need to take into account for the future of the education in Africa.
The continent is just full of challenges. I can say there are conflicts, there are just climate change related issues, poverty and so on. What is just your program doing in order to create citizens, African citizens that are globally competent and that can also extricate the majority of African people from poverty and from conflicts and so on?
Yes. We have, among the new challenges we have to deal with is, for example, the new technologies, artificial intelligence or ICTs. We need also to, as you said, to deal with the climate change. It produces another type of environment for the schools. It generates a migration of populations, of poor people to the cities. In terms of digital transformation, for example, we have a large program with African countries to introduce in the school system, the school curriculum, all the new technologies. And many countries have special programs to provide a computer to each student so that they are able to access to the new technology. We are also providing training for teachers. We have here in Addis Ababa the International Institute for Capacity Building, which is here at ECA, which is specialized in training of teachers. And through this IGBA Institute, we are providing specific training for teachers to be able to teach with the new technologies. It's not that simple. You know, if you go to the school in Addis Ababa or in Yaoundé or in Abuja, you have better off children. They come to school with the tablet, with the laptop, and the teacher has no laptop. You know, this is a big challenge for the teacher in terms of pedagogy, in terms of teaching methods. So there is a big effort from our side with the African Union also to improve the level of capacity of the teachers to be able to deal with these new classrooms.
What special attention is given to girls and women, since they are just vulnerable groups in this scenario of the African and just the problems that the education sector of Africa has faced and may continue to face? What special attention do you pay for girls and women education?
There are many solutions. You know, there are many solutions that's probably only when you are parents of girls you think of. It's not simply sending a girl to schools. You have organizations like UNICEF, UN Women, including UNESCO, that are fighting to provide a safe environment in the schools for the girls. You cannot have girls in the same school using the same latrines, for example, or toilets. You cannot have, in certain periods, the girls very well in the schools because of certain natural things, let's say. So these are special attention we have to pay to the girls. And in many countries, sometimes the girls drop out simply because they don't have a safe environment. We want to avoid bullying by boys or over the girls also, for example. We want to give the opportunity to the girls to feel comfortable, especially when they are adolescents in the classroom. Beside the fact that we already made a great effort to have more women teachers, so they feel also comfortable in a kind of masculine environment, you know. So there are many solutions. I think we are working toward those solutions, but the most important one is opening spaces for the girl to come to school, you know, and that's in terms of access. In terms of raising awareness to the parents, certain communities have certain fears by tradition to send the girls to school. When they reach the age of 14, 15, for example, they're used for domestic work. They are used for early marriage, you know, and that's a big issue in Africa also, not only in Africa. I tend to say that we don't need to victimize ourselves. In the world, there are many parts of the world where you have also the same type of situation. There are certain traditions in Africa, in certain part of Africa, that prevent girls to go to school. It's genital mutilations. It's early marriage. It's pregnancies, early pregnancies. You know, we have to open the eyes to the. If you think of education, for example, there is a say. Everybody says now that if you don't educate women, you don't educate a nation. You know, and that's important. And we have also to be proud that we have many women, because of education, that who are leading our countries. You have your presidents, you have a president in other countries of Africa, that are women, you have prime minister, you have vice presidents, you have ministers, you have even now business women who are taking the continent forward, you know, in the new technologies and new areas. This is important. This is because of education, and it's called gender equality, basically.
Access of education also depends on the infrastructure. And how do you explain the infrastructure condition in Africa?
There's disparities between urban areas, of course, because that's where you have better off families that can afford education, and you have very poor condition in rural areas, in villages, and that's a question of funding. Again, I say that the political will is there. It's a question of funding. We talk about education, but our societies, our governments, our leaders have also to tackle different other issues, like employment for young people, like the demography, providing also opportunities for men and women to get a job, services, public services. So when you are in education, you have to have also to think of other issues that influence the educational system. And I think that infrastructure like classrooms, having additional classroom. You've heard here the statement of the President of Kenya, the statement of the President of Sierra Leone, and of their main number one ambition is to build new schools for all children in infrastructure. This is number one in every plan for development. So this is a good sign that maybe in 10 or 20 years we'll get there.
So we can have just a very good infrastructure. We can have some teachers, educational inputs, and so on. And what special attention are you just paying for ensuring quality education in Africa so that citizens can be competent and able to extricate Africa from its socio-political challenges that economic challenges as well we are witnessing now?
There are two main elements in the quality of education. There are many others, but the two most important are good teachers, competent teachers, and good learning materials and environments. That's the two main elements for quality education. There are other issues, but if you don't have children with good learning materials, they don't have the books, they don't have the notebooks, and if you don't have a teacher qualified with the sufficient learning knowledge to be able to deal with the classroom, you cannot have a good quality education. And that's where, again, I want to emphasize the work of the institute in Addis Ababa, the UNESCO Institute for Capacity Building, in training teachers for quality education. I want also to emphasize the work done by UNESCO, African Union, and the other organizations in providing books, notebooks, pencils to all children every year, including the facilities that are being provided by the government itself, themselves, in terms of free education. This is important. There is a massive recognition and massive effort to improve the quality of education, because it is important when they finish school that they're able to to go to the market and find a good job, and find a job that is required into the market, meaning the relevance of education. If we need more employees for the banks, we have to have schools for banking. If we want to have for the society more diplomats, so you have to adapt also the education system to the needs, economic needs of the country. And that's what we call relevance of education, and that's what many countries are doing now also.
Edward Matoko, Assistant Director General for Priority Africa and External Relations at UNESCO. Thank you so much for joining me and just giving explanations on the continent's education sector performance, the challenges, and the ways forward. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. If I can say, Amasegalelo, asante sana, because one of the also most important elements for quality education is using the mother tongue. Learning in your local language, not in other languages. Amasegalelo. Thank you. Thank you.
Dear viewers, this has been a conversation with Edward Matoko, Assistant Director General for Priority Africa and External Relations at the UNESCO here at the African Union. Thank you so much for staying with me, and this is today's special edition. I'm Sintayo Tamrat with this edition. See you another time.